let's get right to work on a Big 12 expansion update because I thought it was interesting that the phone started blowing up this morning when Brett Yormark was talking about Big 12 expansion. And, hey, is Big 12 expansion going to happen? And I think we got a very different Brett Yormark this time around. You may remember last time at Big 12 Football Media Days, Brett was pretty straightforward when he talked about the fact that they were looking for opportunities and, you know, that Gonzaga was X, Y, or Z. Like, hey, I like Gonzaga. Like, he went out of his way to say good things about Gonzaga, and stuff. Brett Yormark went out of his way to talk about the Zags. This time he did not do that. He very directly, Jake, and I don't know, you cut all this sound today of Brett Yormark. I thought he was pretty direct about Gonzaga back then, but I thought he was also pretty straightforward today about expansion.
Yeah, I mean, I think the change in tone is pretty simple here. Like, last year, last year he was very much like, hey, we're looking for opportunities. And, I'm not going to speak on, those specific opportunities, but we're definitely in the marketplace and like essentially just sending the message that they're operating and that they're, looking to do some things. And I think the difference in narrative this time is he's basically just sitting here saying that he's not going to comment on it.
I won't be commenting on expansion speculation today. But I will say this, no different than last year. If an opportunity presents itself for me to strengthen this conference, I'm going to explore it.
So, I mean,
pretty straightforward.
Pretty straightforward, pretty matter of fact about it. And I think what's really interesting about that is it further hammers home the point that, whether it's Pac-12 schools or Gonzaga or whatever the case may be, Brett's not going to talk much about it. And I think that's kind of a shift. I really do think that the Big 12 is, in a sense, kind of hitting the brakes on expansion because they're waiting for bigger opportunities down the line. And I think that we don't often hear, guys at Brett Yormark's level talk about expansion or comment it either way. It's not like you're ever going to catch Brett Yormark, just openly talking about what their strategy is in expansion. But I think you can tell both in tone and in the words he's speaking that it's definitely something that's been kind of put on the back burner in a sense. And that's why when the Gonzaga news came out, we told you guys Gonzaga is not traditional expansion. It's a very different conversation. It's a cherry on top opportunity. It's an opportunity to improve the value of your league without having to deal with all the logistics of football and just everything that comes with that. And so when a lot of people, and again, it is very opinion based, right? It is speculatory, if you will. But in my opinion, my speculation is that Gonzaga still is very much in play and that they're working through it. But when Brett Yormark uses the word expansion, he's talking about, full member expansion, basketball, football, and all the other sports. And I just think right now the Big 12 is not going to be adding anyone like that until we get some clarity on where the ACC is kind of going and how long it's going to be until that situation kind of, not to be too negative, but blows up or whatever adjective you want to use.
Yeah, and our sources are telling us that Gonzaga and the Big 12 continue to work towards building a relationship, and I think it is simply a matter of time. There really has been no change or update to Gonzaga. They very much, I think, on both sides of this, continue to want to work together to find a way to add Gonzaga to the Big 12. And I think I go back to what Brett Yormark has said for the better part of a year now, that basketball is going to be a revenue model. And I think it makes all the sense in the world. And adding Gonzaga to a conference that is already the best basketball conference in the country, frankly, is a no-brainer. And I think you look at the region, I think you look at the emotions, I think you look at the passion and the difference in passion between football and basketball, and you start to understand why you can't just add any old basketball program to this league. And I think the free pass that Kansas got only strengthened the Big 12's position. I think you look at the money that is going to be coming into this league through Rucker Park in Mexico. I think that only strengthens your position. And I think the draw on the high caliber, the high level of basketball that you get in Spokane from Gonzaga is a big deal. And I think while Spokane's not the biggest market in the world, I think if Washington State has shown us anything, It's that fans in that neck of the woods do turn on the TV and do support their fan bases. And I think Gonzaga has always had good support amongst its TV viewership numbers. So I think this continues to be a no-brainer. I'm told it is very simply a matter of time to get this done. I think Gonzaga cares very much about the way things look. I think Gonzaga cares very much about executing at the exact right time. I think if it was up to the Big 12, this deal would have been done already, and you would have made this announcement before today when you had Big 12 basketball media days tipping off. Like I think the Big 12 wants to do it now. I'm told Gonzaga is the one that's trying to find the exact right moment in time to do this. I think there's also some I's and T's that have not been crossed yet at Gonzaga, but I think it is very clearly just a matter of time before this gets done. It's not an if, it's a when. And I think that is very clear at this point. And I also think sources today, again, were unequivocal that Oregon State and Washington State, much to Jake's point, are not currently and have not for a significant amount of time spoken to the Big 12. We continue to ask those questions on a weekly basis, and I think the rumor mill that's out there and the people that continue to try and push the narrative that in its current form that Oregon State and Washington State are about to jump into the Big 12, there's just nobody is supporting that. And I think the only way that Oregon State and Washington State can have their fate changed is through the ACC. And I would remind you again that here we are on October 17th, and the ACC is still intact. Nobody has yet to announce a loophole in the grant of rights that we were told was going to happen, last week. That never materialized. So, Jake, I just don't see a window for more college football realignment to happen this year or really in the next year.
Yeah, and I think that, the only realignment that I would expect to realignment, if you want to call it that, would be the Mountain West opportunity for the two remaining in the Pac-12. That's really the only one. Outside of that, I don't think we're going to see, the ACC situation find its way forward, anytime in the next, year. I think that's a 3 to 5 year proposition at a minimum, and that really all depends on what happens in terms of automatic qualifiers with that Mountain West merger and several other things. So to me, yeah, I don't think we're going to see, I think for the most part, this round of realignment and expansion has come to an end. But I think in the long term, that's kind of the viewpoint that these conferences are operating with. Like this coming football season, we get to see something that, once again, I don't think we've really ever seen, which is multiple conferences adding multiple schools. That's going to change the power system, or really the power structure in college football. I mean, it very much can be, does Texas come out of the SEC? Does Oklahoma come out of the SEC? Like, do we get a big change there? What of the Big Ten? Does Oregon, reign supreme in the Big Ten next year? I don't know. But what I'm saying is that I'm here for the Oregon, Ohio State, big noon kickoff on a Saturday. And I think that's the things we have to look forward to. But at the same time, those are the kind of things that I think are also going to be a key ingredient in when the ACC decides to move. Because if Notre Dame, for example, sees a big opportunity because of X, Y, or Z happening after these conference changes happen, then maybe that accelerates the ACC timeline. Like, there's so much at play. So, yeah, I think realignment right now is slowing down, obviously, but I'm just not sure what that next thing is going to be that kind of kickstarts it again, other than, there's a lot of rumors around, like, ESPN and some of the ACC schools trying to work something out. And that, to me, is very gray area, very rumor mill stuff.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that, and I think, again, these things do not happen under the cover of darkness. If you look at the realignment that happened this past fall, none of that was a surprise. We knew most of those details we had reported in February and March, and they happened in August. I mean, if you really look at how realignment works, it's never a secret. It's never a shocker. The Four Corners and the Big 12 was never a shocker. That Utah went to the Big 12 was never a shocker, right? Like, these things don't just happen in silence. It's too difficult. There's too many moving parts. So My feeling is, I just think there's no impetus to move mountains in college football right now. There's not a financial gain. There is not, frankly, a gain that gets you an easier route to the college football playoff, especially not with the playoff expanding to 12 next year. There's just no reason to spend the money and the human cost to expand these conferences right now. And I think one of the other real questions that I have for all of you watching the show today is, how important is college basketball to you? I think you look at Brett Yormark, and he continues today to talk about how basketball's a revenue stream and how it is a building block and how great Kansas City's been, and they're working on a multi-year extension. And the Big 12 is the singular conference that prioritizes basketball on a monetary level. They count on, very clearly, college basketball to be its own revenue stream. And the question that I have is, as a fan, do you look forward to college basketball? Here we are, on October 17th, just weeks away from November, and nobody's really talking about college basketball. Yet we have media days, and we have practices and Midnight Madness and all of these college basketball things coming, and I wonder, how important is college basketball to you? And is it something where it's appointment television? It clearly is not appointment television the way that Oregon and Washington was this weekend, or any of the major games, Notre Dame, USC. Like, you look at football, and yes, very clearly it is different than basketball. I don't think anybody argues that. But my point is Brett Yormark making a mistake going this far in on college basketball? Because it feels like, knowing now that Gonzaga is very close to joining the Big 12, he's all in on college basketball. There's no other way to spin that. And with the Rucker Park relationship, the Mexico relationship, we're hearing rumblings of Australia for the Big 12. Like, you hear all of this stuff in the works. There is money being spent to grow the Big 12 footprint in basketball. And Jake, I think you're a really good example of a guy. I don't think you're that excited about college basketball.
Yeah, I think it's on one hand it's very similar to college football, and on another hand it's totally different, right? Like, so I'm not, like in football, I'm not getting excited about run of the mill, low end matchup. That's not like, I'm not gonna skip my tea time to watch some rando matchup at 10 a.m. Right? Like, I'm not doing that, right? And I think a lot of people share that sentiment. But I think the major difference, outside of money and all that, between football and basketball, is football has always had this sort of big feel to it, this sort of grand, 80,000 people in a stadium pushing for one cause. Like, it just feels bigger. And I think, if I'm Brett Yormark, one lesson that I'm learning out of Colorado this year is that even if the product sucks, even if you're not a college football playoff team, even if you're a bottom feeder in the sport, you can still create a grand environment. But you need the right recipe to do that, and you need the right ingredients to create that recipe. And I think in college basketball, yes, geography is one of those things, right? Like, where your venue is, where you're playing the game, that definitely is a key ingredient in getting good TV viewership. Whether it's an aircraft carrier or whether it's,
Iowa basketball with Caitlin Clark in front of 55,000 fans.
Right, like, so venue definitely matters, but I think the reality is there's no replacing, implications of this game. What does someone have to lose in this game, and what do they have to gain, and who are the key stars in this game? And so if Brett Yormark, I think Brett Yormark as a commissioner, his job in terms of basketball right now is to give the individual programs a chance to recruit at a higher level to get the talent. How do I recruit at a higher level in basketball? Well, we go to Australia, we go to Mexico, we go to Rucker Park, we go to all these different areas, and then within that, you've got all this NIL opportunity, both as a school and as a player, as a student athlete. And I think that is what Brett Yormark's mission here is.
But is it a fruitful mission, if you will?
Well, I think it can be, but I think that you got to be good. You got to win, and the Big 12 does have teams that win. And so for the Big 12, yeah, I do think it is. But for what was the Pac-12? No,
Oh,
absolutely not.
basketball's been one of their major failings.
Yeah,
There's no doubt about that.
But I think it's like Alabama basketball coming up now, right? Like the SEC, Greg Sankey and the SEC are starting to understand that, yeah, wow, maybe we should take basketball a little more seriously, considering the ACC and the Big 12 have all these juggernauts in basketball. And yeah, maybe they're not in the college football playoff every single year like we are. But what if football can stay level at wherever it's at, and then we could just bring basketball up a little bit?
But you and I both know, I would say, what percentage? 90% of college basketball fans are only college basketball fans 1 month a year.
Yep.
And that's in March.
Yep.
And I know that makes me sound like a cynic, and I'm not trying to be a jerk about it, but I feel like there's so many fans anymore. And I'm the guy that I love watching Carolina basketball. Put Carolina basketball on, and I'll watch them against North Carolina A&T.
But like that,
I'll watch
type of matchup. Even that type of matchup, I'm still gonna be like, honestly, like, even if it's Duke Carolina, like Duke Carolina right now is a little watered down.
Yeah, but you're the guy who'd rather do the dishes than watch a November college basketball game.
But if it's Duke Carolina, at least there's something there, right? Like, that's, generally speaking, he's right. I'm not a huge college basketball guy.
I know.
But like when it was Zion at Duke, okay, I've got more reason to watch. When it was Kyrie at Duke, I had more reason to watch. And that's why I say, you have to get the talent in there. That's the one and done NBA player. And if you do that, you give me a reason to watch. But again, I think your point about 90% of college basketball fans being 1 month a year, how do we make that 2, 3, 4, 5 months a year? What needs to happen? Well, you need to create more of a sense of community, because why are those people 1 month a year fans? Oh, that's right. They go to the job that they hate and they do bracketology with all their office friends that they see 9 hours a day. That's why they're fans. It gives them something to talk about. And that's college basketball's issue. Nobody gives a damn about the top 25 in college basketball or any type of ranking. Like, we don't care. Talk to me in February when we're starting to get going for the tournament.
I'm really curious if we're wrong about this. I think I have a pretty good read on the pulse of sports fandom.
Yeah.
And I think most fans at that time of year are into the NBA more than they're into college basketball. And certainly if you're an NBA fan, you're not going to watch college basketball until I would agree, February, things start getting interesting. You get into the conference tournaments okay, that I think makes a big difference.
But you know, one last point before we get there. I do think the hardcore sports fan understands that, hey, there's college basketball on ESPN, but if you're that guy, like YouTube TV has, like, I've recently joined up on the YouTube TV thing, so I'm starting to figure out, all you got to do on YouTube TV is search NHL, and you get every NHL game on YouTube TV. All you got to do is search NBA, and for the most part, you're going to get every NBA game, excluding national, in your local market, right? Like, YouTube TV is giving me more options in addition to just what's on ESPN. Yeah. And I think that's also contributing. The offerings in the TV landscape are changing.
Yep. Shout out to Aaron Wilson, who gave a membership today. Aaron, appreciate you as always. A shout out to Lopes fan Gabe. He's been a member for 9 months.
Let's go, baby.
Speaking of college basketball, Lopes up. College basketball. Is that what that's? He just says college basketball.
Yeah.
Okay.
But like, Gabe's a good example. You know, Gabe's a Phoenician. Gabe is a GCU guy. Like I think college basketball really works in a localized sense when you have that up and coming Cinderella story type team that's really pushing and now is contending for a tournament run every year. Like GCU
and Caitlin Clark at Iowa is a really good example. You're going to turn out 50, almost 6,000 people to watch Caitlin Clark play basketball against, I think it was DePaul from Chicago. So I give him a lot of credit for that. Lance Johnson for $5. I think Oregon State and Washington State need to figure out the next 5 years. The Big 12 isn't moving until the ACC starts to settle out. And I think one of the things that is so clear is, from what I'm told anyways by really well-placed TV sources, is that the Mountain West and the Pac-2, Oregon State and Washington State, their biggest questions were, what if realignment happens again and we're left on the outside looking in? And so I think there are some interesting language propositions that because, again, every source that I have is telling me that the Pac-2 are going to join the Mountain West and they are going to have a reimagined Pac-12.
Right.
I'm told there's going to be some very interesting language around outs, and the fee structure and the grant of rights will be significantly different than what you see in most other conferences, notably the ACC, where I believe their grant of rights expires in the year 2479. I might be off a year or
The numbers
or,
are a little fuzzy, but it's somewhere around there.
But I think you're going to see I think there's a chance that there won't be a traditional grant of rights in this reimagined Pac-12.
Well, I mean, if you're Washington State and Oregon State, why would you? I mean, I still maintain.
Well, no, if you're Fresno State, if you're Boise, if you're Air Force, look at Air Force right now. Like if you're in that situation, why would you sign a 10-year grant of rights in a reimagined Pac-12? Well, you're never going to do that. You're never going to do that.
Yeah.
And I think what you're looking at is the game has changed. I don't know how many people saw the story the other day about, the Arizona Coyotes, I think, are the newest hockey team to bring their rights to the local marketplace. This Bally Sports TV is, essentially dead now with these RSN's regional sports networks. And you have teams like the Las Vegas Golden Knights and Scripps Sports. I think Scripps Sports is a trendsetter here, where you have no rights fees being paid, and all of the sales responsibility lies with Scripps Sports, and there's a revenue share going to the Las Vegas Golden Knights, who are now getting carriage or being carried and seen, not just in Las Vegas and Nevada, but in Utah and into Idaho.
Yeah.
So they're getting a far more significant deal. And you look at the WNBA deal and you look at the Scripps Sports deals, like these are the deals of the future. And I think in this reimagined Pac-12, I think there's a real good chance you are going to see TV rights go to people like Scripps Sports in the local marketplace because they can make more money on it. And yeah, I think you're going to have a small national deal. I think you will always have an ESPN, Fox, CBS Sports type deal. But I think you are going to have a significant amount, especially college basketball, that's going to go into the local marketplace.
Yes.
And I don't know why you wouldn't do it that way.
College basketball, does much better locally.
And again, for a guy like Lopes Fan Gabe, who is in Phoenix, who is a Grand Canyon University Lopes fan, and you look at the rabid appetite and the meteoric ascent of Grand Canyon basketball, why wouldn't you do a local deal? You would certainly make more rights for a university the size and scope of Grand Canyon. It makes a lot of sense. I don't know, man. I think you're looking at a very rapidly changing marketplace, and you look at things like the Marquee Network in Chicago with the Cubs, or you look at all of these different places where NBC, Comcast, Bay Area, or you look at all these different areas where Bally Sports, Phoenix, Matt Ishbia, the new owner of the Suns, took the Phoenix Suns out and said, "You're out of business. You're not paying. Okay, great, we're out." You look at the Arizona Diamondbacks, who said, "Oh, you're not playing. Okay, we're going to." Major League Baseball took the TV and media rights deal back. This is changing. I think the NHL is the most vulnerable of those sports because you look at markets like Phoenix. Think about the face of the NHL in Chicago. How different is the face of the NHL in Phoenix?
Very different.
How different is? You look at MSG in New York.
Yeah.
Offering per game, basically a la carte games for the Rangers and Islanders. I mean, that's a very different place than Phoenix, than San Jose, than a lot of smaller markets. And I think you have to wonder, we're based, for those of you who don't know, we're based in Salt Lake City. They're thirsty for an NHL team here.
Yes.
They're thirsty for a Major League Baseball team here. Well, guess what they're apparently not thirsty for is local television because there's very little buzz around the Jazz new TV deal. And I don't know, you're in the marketplace as much as I am.
I think there's very respectfully, I'm not trying to bash anyone. I just think generally the Jazz have not had that sort of
pop
kick yet, that pop, that sort of banging attention that I certainly was expecting. And I know they've had some ups and downs in terms of decisions they've made, with the TV deal, but also with that apparel issue and the Jordan logo. And they've had some things. There have been some things. But generally speaking, Jazz fans are pretty damn loyal and they're pretty damn excited about this team. And yet I don't see a whole lot happening around the Jazz, to be honest. And hey, maybe that's on me, but we do this thing every single day, and I'm out here looking around, and I'm like, NBA preseason's coming to an end here. We start next week, and I don't know what's the exciting thing right now for a team like the Jazz or whoever. I mean, I hear more people talking about the Suns, the Nuggets, the Lakers, certainly Harden and the Clippers, things like that than I do the Jazz.
I agree. Valvez, by the way, on Twitch says, hey, what's up? What's up? How are you? Good to see you. Connor Tulin, what's up with you? Tarrant County boy, YouTube TV getting more expensive. And and I think there's going to be a ceiling where people are just not willing to pay it. I think there's going to be a ceiling where people are not willing to pay it. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if that's sooner or later or it'll be interesting. Matthew Farmer for $5 or no, excuse me, 2 months. A member for 2 months. I should learn to read. TCU with a freshman made the Cougs look so meh. TCU's got a good freshman quarterback. Culture change coming in Fort Worth. Let's see. Kenneth Maynor for $5. Gonzaga to the Big 12 is a smart move. The ACC adding UConn and Villanova would be a similar smart move for the future.
Gonzaga.
We'll see. I mean, I think it's just an ever-changing landscape. And again, I say it every time I talk about this with Oregon State and Washington State. They're just in a terrible spot. They're in a terrible spot because they both have earned, I think, far more than what they're getting. And I think they've earned more, and I think they deserve more, and I just don't think there's a way to get them more.
Yeah.
Not right now. And, it's funny the way the universes work. I do believe that karma will come back around to help Washington State and Gonzaga, Washington State and Oregon State, because I think if you merge with the Mountain West, I think you're in a power position. And I know Oregon State and Washington State fans don't want to hear that, but I think if you merge with the Mountain West, you have almost a direct route to a 12-team college football playoff.
Yeah, and I think you got to look past, any type of stigma or any type of negative energy in relation to the Mountain West. The Mountain West is a really good conference, and I know it's not a quote-unquote power conference, right? It's obviously a Group of 5 conference, but I think if you're Oregon State and Washington State, I don't know that you could ask for any better, assuming that a reimagined pack gets the auto qualifier. Now, obviously it goes without saying, hey, you could get an at-large bid into an expanded college football playoff. Absolutely. But I think if you could have both opportunities, if you could win the conference and auto bid in, or have, an at-large, that's a great opportunity for you. And Oregon State and Washington State, even with some of their issues, more Washington State than Oregon State, that defense, Cam Ward's inconsistencies, dude, even with those, I still think you guys are both the best teams in what would be that conference.
Yes.
So that's why I say, get past, it's the Mountain West. Who cares? Get past that and say, hey, now we've got opportunity here, and we don't have top 5 teams standing in our way.
Yeah. It'll be interesting to see how it all plays out. I certainly think Oregon State and Washington State are going to find their way through this. I mean, they have made all the right moves so far. I think they're going to win this negotiation with the exiting 10 members. It's just a matter of time. Delaric for $5. College basketball needs 2 things. Basketball versions of Dion, and NBA put an age limit like the NFL, so no more talent goes to college basketball, but hopefully NIL will help. I think the problem is it's not an age limit in the NFL. It's a physical capabilities limit in the NFL. I think in college basketball, we've seen it time and again with Kobe, LeBron. I think we see it a little less because maturity has become such a big problem with the explosion of social media. But guys like Ja, and Ja went to college, obviously, but you look at the problems that guys have had on social media, Zion with these strippers and the pregnancies, and Ja with the guns. And
well, I think the most recent one, or one of the most recent ones, was Kai Jones in Charlotte. I mean, you're one of the most athletic young players in the league, and you're throwing it away because you want to make some videos. Like
you're just not ready.
Yeah, you're not ready, man.
There's so many more pitfalls now. But I agree with you. I think this NIL hearing stuff today was a complete waste. I mean, and it was the best set. At least we didn't have, what's the right way to say it? At least we didn't have fandom overtaking the committee today. But I just don't. Legislation for NIL is so far away. I mean, the NCAA today asking for, antitrust protections because of NIL, and come on, I'm so frustrated with NIL. It's really disappointing, and I guess I shouldn't say. I guess it's disappointing, but it's not surprising.
Yeah,
the way that NIL has gotten corrupted.
Well, and I think that we all know the way these different parties are going to operate when it comes to making their case. You know the NCAA body itself is going to want to keep as much control as it can and get protections and do all these things. And then you also know that, the players and the universities are going to want more flexibility, more ability to, quote unquote, legally put together NIL deals.
Yeah.
And I think it's incredible to me that in business you have what's supposed to be the managing body of college athletics going directly against the wishes of its people, essentially. That's amazing to me.
Yeah, totally agree. Totally agree. Let's see. Boy, we have got a lot of comments today. We appreciate all of you. Where is Matt Ritson for $2? Need to dump the NIT and CBI tournaments. Only need 68 teams. Does anybody watch the CBI? I mean, the NIT's at least got history, right? The NIT at least has history. But, who knows? Let's see. John Holmes says, F you, Monty, you're wrong again.
Okay.
Okay, John.
Okay.
Well, always average to see
It's okay,
you.
man.
Always average to see you. Mike Smith says, Jacobites do not support George. Jacobites do not support George. Okay.
Okay.
Phoenix is going to lose their team, Jeff Woodworth says. I really hope the Coyotes can figure it out there. I mean, the scary thing is, I think there is a real and legitimate chance that the Coyotes and the Diamondbacks leave Phoenix. Because water in that, don't even get me started. Yeah. OG Gary, I just drank some Powerade, not thirsty here. Okay. Okay, let's hydrate everybody.
You can't tell me you wouldn't be excited about an NHL team in Salt Lake. Come on, dude.
Would we support it?
I certainly would.
Well, I would, yeah, but we're hockey fans. But would the state of Utah support NHL hockey? I don't think so. We all talk about it. We all get excited about it. But you have a phenomenal team in Utah, the Utah Grizzlies. And is it like they routinely sell out?
Well, here's the thing, though. I think that there's a difference, obviously, number one, between the NHL and the ECHL. Number one, just in terms of prestige and like how the masses view it, right? Like, if you said to someone, hey, yeah, like we're going to have an NHL team here. Oh, great. Okay, cool. But how many Avalanche fans live in Salt Lake City? How many people know that the Utah Grizzlies feed the Colorado Avalanche? Well, probably not as many as they probably should. So we can have a whole discussion about like marketing and exposure and telling the story. But the reality of the situation is if you put an NHL team in Vivint Arena where the Jazz play, I think that would do just fine. Now, would everyone support? I don't know, but I think you'd have enough support, I guess is my point. Like, there is definitely a thirst for one more. And I don't think baseball is the one that I don't think would do well here.
I think that's exactly right. I think baseball would not survive.
No.
And so that would be a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And I understand. Yeah, trust me when I say that. But Las Vegas driveaways survive very well here in the great state of Utah. Our Las Vegas driveway presented by Sound Sleep Medical. You guys, it's amazing how many people have asked questions the last day about Sound Sleep Medical. Snoring is a huge issue, and I know a lot of people are embarrassed to talk about it, and I know a lot of our viewers asked questions yesterday. We had Matt Deering from Sound Sleep Medical on the show. They are a presenting partner with our Las Vegas driveway, where you get 2 tickets to see the Raiders and the Vikings. You get 2 nights in a hotel, one of the best steak dinners you're ever going to have at Mastro's Ocean Club at City Center. It is just going to be phenomenal. You get a $100 Visa gift card to pay for gas. Like, we're hooking you up with a trip to Las Vegas. And very few people ask me about the trip. A ton of people ask me about how they can get help with snoring. And I understand it's embarrassing and people don't want to talk about it. But you guys, if you want to go to Vegas and see the Raiders, it's December 9th and 10th. The game is on the 10th. Go to Sound Sleep Medical /Monty and sign up for their free sleep evaluation. You have to go and execute that. And what happens is you go in, and they give you a device, and you take it home, and it evaluates your sleep. It is that simple. But if you're somebody that snores, and I've heard so many stories about how, hey, my wife sleeps in our guest room because I snore so loudly, or you don't have to deal with that anymore. Sound Sleep Medical has a small, easy device. It's a mouthpiece. If you go to their website, soundsleepmedical.com/Monty, you'll see this small mouthpiece that is not a CPAP machine. It's not loud. It's not tubes. It's not bacteria, and you've got to disinfect it, and you can't travel with it. No, friends. This is a custom medical device that your insurance will cover, that you put in your mouth, that's fit for you, that replaces a CPAP machine. And what it does is it puts your jaw in the optimum position so that your airway is not blocked, so you don't snore anymore. And it is amazing how many people have been helped by this. And what do they all say? It saved my marriage. It helped my relationship. It helped my marriage. We got to sleep in the same bed again. It helped our love life. It helped our friendship. Like, all these things, because snoring drives a wedge between you and your wife, and the intimacy goes away because she's sleeping in a different room. Take care of it today. soundsleepmedical.com/Monty. I am so excited about this drive-away. We have always, on this show, we have always told you that we recognize how important you guys are. Without you, we don't have a show. Without the people that love this show and hate this show, we don't have a show. So we always try to get back to you. If you remember, we did all those ticket giveaways in the fall to send you to see Texas and Baylor, and to see Oregon and Texas Tech, and
BYU's first home game.
BYU's first home game in the Big 12, Utah and Colorado. Like, we want to get back to you guys. This is how we're doing it. We want to give you this trip is valued at over $1,500, and it's yours free. All you have to do is go to soundsleepmedical.com/Monty, sign up for their sleep study, take a screenshot that you did it, DM Jake, SLC Jake, on Twitter or Instagram. You can DM me, The Monty Show, MONTY, The Monty Show. Give us a screenshot that you signed up at soundsleepmedical.com/Monty, and you are entered to win